This is the Bill Pollock Show.
So I've had a couple of my friends that I have on Facebook, and I appreciate their honesty, but they've told me, Bill, I don't listen to your podcast. I'm not a big sports person. No, this is so much more than sport. Yes, I'm the sports director at Missouri Net, a statewide news network. I get that, and I do talk some sports. But the podcast is much more than that. It's entertainment, political. I even dip into the medical field. I'll do that later on this podcast. Got some new information. I didn't talk about this yesterday because the stories come. Listen, you know how unreliable our media can be, or how biased, or how stories can be, no matter who you're following in terms of our national media. You know how crooked that can be. So imagine it coming out of the Dominican Republic. I wasn't buying some of these stories. So we're getting new information now that's kind of squashing this suspicion that Royals pitcher Yordano Ventura, who was killed in a car crash on Sunday, was robbed or assaulted early Sunday morning. So the original stories coming out were that his World Series ring may have been stolen, that he might have been wearing it. They may have taken it right off of his finger. He was robbed. The family is getting back those personal items. They have those personal items back. There were even some reports that he was alive and several people assaulted, and they had no evidence, no witnesses, nothing to back this up. And these people are on these websites saying that while he's struggling to survive, people are assaulting him instead of helping him. And I didn't want to report this stuff yesterday because the original reports that came out from the coroner and were released by the police information director said that the coroner believed that Ventura did not survive the impact. So now we're starting to get a clearer picture. The family has his items, and it appears as though these allegations of him getting assaulted or robbed are probably false. If you're going to Royals Fan Fest this weekend, the Royals will have a memorial set up. If you go to the convention center, there'll be an area where you can sign a wall. They'll have some highlights, game jersey. So this, obviously, it hit the baseball world hard, and it certainly hit Royals fans hard here. Well, we had the first one of 2017. I think this is the first major celebrity death. Mary Tyler Moore, dead at the age of 80. I guess she was fighting an illness. And she was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, had her own show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. My lasting impression of her, though, is that we got stuck in some class in high school watching Ordinary People, and she was kind of a bitch in that movie. And I always liked Mary Tyler Moore up until that movie. And I know she was just acting, but for a long time, though, that just kind of left a negative opinion of it, which isn't nice. So on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, of course, Betty White was on this show. So I started thinking, all right, who has Betty White outlived on that show? Because I'm like, there's got to be other people that have kicked the bucket from that show. Not just Mary Tyler Moore. And the only one so far is Ted Knight, who played Ted Baxter. He died at 63. Now, there was Valerie Harper. She was Rhoda. She's 7. She is not doing well, but she's still around. And then Gavin McLeod, before he was Captain Steubing, was Murray Slaughter. He's still alive. He's 85. Ed Asner is still alive. Lou Grant is 87. And then there was the blonde Georgette, who had the real high-pitched voice. Wasn't she kind of like the dingy one, if you're old enough to remember the show? So there's only 2 that are dead now from the show. So I'm trying to see how many of these people will Betty White, who is the oldest at 95, how many will she outlast? I think she can outlast Gavin McLeod, even though he's 85. He's got 10 years on her. Okay, enough of the music. They keep playing the music over. Cut it. Cut the music. All right. So anyway, I think Betty White, I think she can take down Gavin McLeod. I think she'll beat Ed Asner. And Valerie Harper's in declining health. She'll go soon, too. So I think the only one would be Georgette, who's got about 28 years on her. There's a chance Betty White can knock out the entire cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show and outlive them all, even though she's the oldest. How morbid is that? All right, what else do I have? What the hell did I do with it? Oh, yeah, okay. It's some politics, a little bit of sports here in this one. And I've got medical stuff coming up, too. Stick around for that. But an expert on Missouri politics thinks that retired NASCAR driver and Columbia native Carl Edwards will run against U.S. Senator Claire McCaskill in 2018. So here's what happens. Earlier in the week, this Terry Smith tells one of our reporters, Jason Taylor, and says it's off the record. It's off the record, but he's going to make a prediction. He's going to make a prediction that Carl Edwards is going to run for office and go up against Claire McCaskill. But he tells Jason, don't say anything until Monday. Well, Jason tells us in the office, and we obviously keep it quiet. Then I start getting emails, and I'm seeing tweets that Terry Smith predicts that Carl Edwards will run for office. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I thought he told our guys to keep this quiet. So anyway, Jason Taylor, one of our reporters. Let's get you the theme music here first.
We take you now with another fast-breaking news story.
Yes, okay, and he's in another studio. Let me try to connect this up to you. Are you there? Now, all right, so what did he tell you?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Well, Terry Smith told me that he has never met Carl Edwards, doesn't know the guy, has no inside information, but he thinks Edwards would be perfect to run for the Senate against Claire McCaskill in 2018 for a number of reasons. He's telegenic. He's famous in the state. He's independently wealthy, well-respected, the all-American guy, pretty much very squeaky clean.
All right, so wait, you talked with Terry Smith. He told you this information, says it's off record, and then blabbled it.
Yes, he did. Then I guess he just couldn't control himself. The next morning on a local NPR station, it just came out, I guess, from the professor at Columbia College. What can you say? Then he called me up and said, you can run with it. And so I did.
Well, here's what Carl said at his announcement that he was leaving racing when asked about politics.
I do have really strong feelings about our country. I'm not prepared right now to participate in any public office or anything, but I am very open to helping that cause and helping the cause of liberty and freedom and what it is that America is about.
And he also thought, well, if you want to put two and two together to make four, you'd have to come up with a conclusion that he'd be a conservative Republican because that would be NASCAR. But Terry Smith said he has no idea what Carl Edwards' politics are. But we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, thank Jason Taylor, Missouri Net reporter, who actually could have broken the story, had the story first, and then Terry Smith started blabbing all over town. Good job. Good job, Jason. We have the story at MissouriNet.com. And so I have a friend on Facebook, and I went to grade school with her. And I like her sense of humor. It's different. I like her outlook and her opinion on many things. Now, some things I don't agree with. Some I do. But she has a unique way of getting her point across. So I read this post that she had yesterday, and I thought she was joking. But then I read more, and I think she's serious about this. But you know how people will put LOL like they're laughing out loud, and they're really not laughing out loud. I did. When I read this post, I did. I laughed out loud because I thought it was a joke, but I think she's serious. So here's what she writes. I don't believe in circumcision, and when I pay for insurance, I'm paying for other people's circumcision. I want that to stop. No one should cut parts off their babies! Exclamation point. You are cutting parts off your babies. So that's when I laughed. I thought that's kind of funny. But then she she followed up with one of her own comments, and she said, I really do mean this one. I really do not understand why it is horrifying to consider female circumcision, but hey, let's just chop away at our boys. I'm horrified by it completely. Then one of her friends chimes in. Then this is when I'm starting to think, all right, this is legit. This is real. Her friend chimes in and says, if I had boys, they would be kept intact. And this is also just a good point about the hypocrisy in our society. So here's why we consider female circumcision horrifying. Because that's not really what it's called. It's called female genital mutilation. And I don't know who's trying to call it female circumcision. Probably people who are against male circumcision. They're trying to draw these two things that they're horrible together, and they're not. There is no health benefit, according to the World Health Organization, for female genital mutilation. Meanwhile, there are benefits to having our schliggy-wiggies worked on when we're 2 days old. According to the Mayo Clinic, schliggy-wiggy is what we used to call them. You know, like when you're 3, 4 years old and you have like no you're just free and you run around the house. We tell our son, when you go run around, like, hey, cover up this schliggy-wiggy. You know, you get out of the bath, running around the house. Hey, people just look in the window and see your schliggy-wiggy. The schliggy-wiggy was our name. But there's benefits to cutting off your schliggy-wiggy from the Mayo Clinic, in case you're not familiar with circumcision. Easier hygiene, decreased risk of urinary tract infections, decreased risk of sexually transmitted infections, prevention of other problems, decreased risks of penile cancer. So my friend's friend says, if we had boys, I guess they have all girls, if we had boys, we would not get this done. Hey, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. That's fine. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But don't compare it to female genital mutilation. So women talking about male circumcision, that would be like me trying to express my point of view about the menstrual cycle. And what? And telling women what? It's all in your head. All right? Yeah. What if I said that? Huh? Yeah. If I said that? Oh, man. Listen, is it painful? Yeah. Do babies cry? Yeah. Did I have it done? Yeah. Did I cry? I probably did. Did it hurt? Probably did. But you know what? I was a day old. I don't remember. And it cut out a lot of health risks. And as far as paying for it for insurance, well, you know what? Women, do you really need an epidural? Push the baby out. Push the baby out. It's a little pain. I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to pay for that shot. You don't really need the shot. Tough it out. If you don't want to pay for a circumcision for something that takes less than 20 minutes, then as a male, I don't want to pay to have you feel no pain. Push the baby out. Get tough. Get tough. If us boys got to keep some extra skin, you can tough it out. I don't want to pay for that. See how ridiculous that sounds? My point. All right. And I hope she doesn't defriend me. I'll let you know if she does, but I really laughed at that post. I thought that was funny. 2 women talking about circumcision. It'd be like me and my buddy Jim and my buddy Jeff, us talking about menstrual cycles.
Follow Bill on Twitter at Missouri Sports. You've been listening to The Bill Pollock Show.